Hi, my name is Oscar and I'm a scientist. In today's video we're going to talk about retrogression, what it means, why it happens, and what can you do to manage this issue. Let's take a look. So retrogression, I took this screenshot from Google, what happens when you just type retrogression without further context, and you can see that what it means is to return to an earlier state, and it says typically a worse one. Definitely for the green card world, it definitely means going back to a worse one. But what it really means is the priority days go backwards, and we're going to see in detail what I mean by that. It is a negative news, and is news that we just received very recently in the very recent April 2023 Visa Bulletin. We saw this phenomenon in action, and I'm going to show you later the example so you can understand what retrogression is. So if you want to take a look at my analysis for the April Visa Bulletin, I have a link, you can go and check it out. I took all this information that I'm going to show you from the best source possible, and that is the USCIS website. I have the link right here, and I'm going to put it in the description below so you can check it out as usual at your own pace, read that website and understand everything I'm saying if you need further reading on your own. So what this page says is that it explains how this Visa Bulletin works, which is really what we need to understand visa retrogression. So the first thing is that Congress sets limits on the number of immigrant visas, and by immigrant visas they mean green cards, that can be issued each year. And by the way, that is about, I believe, 140,000 green cards for employment-based categories each year, out of which I think is around 28% go to the EB2 category, 28, 29, and 28, 29% to the EB1 category. And for in the EB1 we include EB1A and the others, and in EB2 we include EB2 NIW and the others. So it's not everything going for these two particular categories. Okay, so they have that limit. That limit has nothing to do with USCIS or the Department of State. It's Congress who set that limit. Okay, that's a key detail to understand. So in order to adjust status to that legal permanent resident status, an immigrant visa must be available to the applicant, both at the time of filing and at the time of adjudication. And that's important. It's not only when you submit your adjustment of status request, but also when they go and give you the visa number, it has to be available at that time too. The Department of State publishes the Visa Bulletin, which lists the cutoff dates that govern visa availability. So the monthly Visa Bulletin determines which applicants are eligible to file for adjustment of status and to get that permanent resident status. And I put a 1 and a 2 there because those are two events, and the visa number needs to be available in each of those two cases. Applicants who have a priority date earlier than the cutoff date shown in the Visa Bulletin are eligible to apply for permanent residence. So I always say it, but here we see it again. Your priority date, that's when you file the I-140, that is listed in your notice of action that you will get. That date has to be previous to the date that is shown in the Visa Bulletin for you to be able to do an adjustment of status or to proceed with consular processing, okay? So that's an important thing to clarify. Then they say more about the Visa Bulletin. Those cutoff dates that are shown in this Visa Bulletin are adjusted monthly. That's why we have monthly Visa Bulletins, and are posted on this website. Always check the official website to take a look at this. And this adjustment is determined after consideration of a number of variables. For example, and they give these 3 variables. 1, the number of visas used to that point. 2, the projected demand for visas. And 3, number of visas remaining under the annual limit for that country and preference category. As you know, the Visa Bulletin shows a table with the different categories of green cards, EB1 and EB2, EB3, and so on. And then as columns, we have the different countries or regions of the world. Okay, so they need to see, okay, for this year we have 140,000 visa numbers available. We are now in the month of March. We have consumed X number of visas. Typically, we have this many number of people applying at this point of the year. So with those two variables, they need to figure out how many visas they can give so they don't run out of visas, or they manage that number in a better way. And that's what they are trying to do with that Visa Bulletin. So practical example, so we understand it very well. So we unfortunately just had the example yesterday when they released the April 2023 Visa Bulletin. And here I'm comparing the EB2 category for March, so the previous month, and April, the upcoming month. And I highlighted it. Basically, this is a screenshot from the table. March, I took table B. April, I took table A. Table B is dates for filing. Table A is final action dates. And as you know, each month you do need to take a look at which table you have to look at. In March, it was table B. That's what they say. In April, they explicitly say that you have to take a look at table A if you're adjusting status. Okay? That's not the case for people applying through consular processing, that they can still go to table B. And we're going to talk about that later. So if you look at EB2, March was saying that the priority date was December 1st, 2022. So only people with priority days before December 2022 could apply for an adjustment of status. However, in April 2023, the situation has changed and the date is now July 1st, 2022. So only people with priority days earlier than July 2022 can apply for an adjustment of status. So that's less number of people, because obviously those are people that applied earlier, that have been waiting longer in line. That's why when we talk about visa bulletins, I also talk about people waiting in lines or lines of people. The visa bulletin really tells you how long is the line. Okay, so what we see is that from March to April, the Visa Bulletin had a retrogression of 5 months. Okay, that's what it means. December to July, if we go backwards 5 months, that's what we got here. So you can talk about retrogression, that's the technical term. You can say dates went back 5 months, and therefore less people can apply for an adjustment of status. And that's the issue, and that's why everyone is so worried about this issue, and the news are definitely not good. So how does USCIS process retrogress visa cases? So let's I really like this bit of information here, because they give you a bunch of different hypotheticals. So let's go through them. So if at the time of adjudication an applicant's priority date no longer meets the cutoff date, his or her case must be held. Okay, so they will put you in pause. Okay, they will pause your case, even if you had an approved case. Your I-140 was approved. You were obviously very happy. You were doing an adjustment of status, but now this happened. It goes back 5 months on the Visa Bulletin, and suddenly your date is not current. So they will put a pause in your case. It's not all lost. It doesn't mean that your green card will not be granted. It means that it will not happen now. Okay? So if the adjudication of your Form I-485, that's adjustment of status, will not require an in-person interview at a USCIS officer, so if they waived your interview, then your case will be held at the USCIS Service Center where you initially filed your application. Okay, so even if you didn't need an interview, even if they, for example, they issue an RFE requesting your medical exam, which typically means that they are waiving your interview, that doesn't mean that they will not put your case in a pause. They always will put it in pause unless a visa number was already adjudicated to you. If that hasn't happened, then you will be affected by the retrogression. Okay, another case, if you have been interviewed at a USCIS officer, so they didn't waive your interview, you went to the interview, then USCIS may hold your case at the following locations until a visa becomes available. So for employment-based visa retrogress case, they will all be kept at the Texas Service Center until a visa number is available. For family-based retrogress cases, then they will be held at the National Benefits Center, or NBC. Okay, so in both cases, either you got an interview or they waive the interview, you may still be affected by this retrogression, and you may still suffer a delay in your green card grant date. Okay, so USCIS will finalize processing of these retrogress cases when applicants' priority dates become available based on the dates in the current monthly Visa Bulletin. So they will just keep them there, they will be paused until your date becomes current. So for example, in the example that we saw earlier, now we have, imagine that we're talking about April, we have this new priority date that is earlier, July 2022. They will hold your case until your priority date is earlier than July 2022, and then the process will continue. Of course, you always need to check the current Visa Bulletin, so unless we're talking about April 2023, you will have to look to the next available Visa Bulletin, the current Visa Bulletin for that particular month, okay? Because things can change from month to month. That's one thing that we learned. Okay, employment and travel, that is really important. Individuals who properly filed Form I-485 adjustment of status, by the way, I have a video on adjustment of status you can watch here. So if you have already filed, you're lucky enough that you have filed this Form I-485 before retrogression, then you're lucky because you can apply for employment authorization, EAD card, and permission to travel application for travel document. And those two documents are great because if you were going to run out of your current status in the US, you can still travel, you can still work once you get these two documents. So congratulations, because you do have a delay, but you have these temporary benefit cards that will allow you to work and travel under your future green card. Okay, even you don't have the green card right now, but you can still benefit from these two types of interim benefits. So let's go with some questions that I get a lot of questions. Yesterday I got really a lot of questions, both in YouTube and also through email and Instagram. So I have a few here, so I hope I will help you, to many of you, solve your questions. So Oscar, I applied through consular processing. Does this retrogression affect me? So my question is yes and no, but mostly yes, okay? So in the Visa Bulletin, we were asked to look at one table for adjustment of status and the other table for consular processing. Table B for consular processing was not really affected. It's still showing December 2022. However, that means that you can submit your documents to the National Visa Center to get what is called DQ, to basically submit your civil documents, and they will process those, and you can do that. So in that sense, you're not affected. You can still go ahead and do that step. However, most likely they will not call you to the consular interview until the date is current based on table A, which is July 2022. That's why I say yes and no, but in reality, yes, you will be affected because, I mean, just think about it. If they are talking about visa numbers being available or not, obviously they are not going to let people abroad get those visa numbers while the people that are waiting for adjustment of status in the US cannot access those numbers. So both will become affected. My guess is that that table B will start also retrogress in future months unless the trend changes and they see less applications. So they may still be holding that table and allowing people to proceed with that submission of the documents for now, but that may change if the situation doesn't revert. And that leads me to the second question that I get asked a lot every month. So when will the situation stop or revert? Okay, and here I have a little joke. I don't have a crystal ball. That's what I really want to answer everyone when they ask me this question. But leaving jokes aside, I know this situation is not really for laughing. I do have the same information than everyone else. Okay, I have the same information as you do, and that is the official information. Only people from the State Department and USCIS, and my guess is only very higher up people there, really know what is coming in future months. We don't. What I can tell you is that this is what the Visa Bulletin for April published. They specifically discuss second preference employment green card retrogression, and they said, this is due to very high expected number use and demand since December 2022, so more people are adjusting status. And USCIS continues to see this high demand from applicants with priority dates earlier than the established final action dates. So this situation will be monitored and they will make the necessary adjustments accordingly. And as usual, there's not a lot of information that they are giving you, but that's really the information that we have and that we have to rely upon. So what can we do when this happens? Okay, retrogression just happened, in this case 5 months, but if you are watching this video later in the future, this may happen again at any time. And in summary, I can tell you that there's not a lot you can do. Okay, from the point of view of speeding up your process, you really can't do much about retrogression. This is actually one of the factors that is outside your control. Other factors that are outside your control is, for example, the officer that judges your petition. That's not within your control. It just happens to fall in somebody's hands. You don't control that officer. You may get one that is a little bit more aggressive or more conservative or more lenient. So that's something we cannot control, so we shouldn't spend a lot of time on this. But I will give you a few cases of situations and my opinion. So what happens if you have not filed your I-140, but you are in a rush to obtain legal status in the US? So I invite you to learn about other types of visas or green cards. And I have a couple of examples. Example 1, you are qualified. You are extraordinarily qualified. You really are a person that either published a lot, have a lot of citations, or that applies for scientists. But if you're not a scientist, somebody that has great achievements in your field. You are one of the top 1% in your field. Okay, if you are an entrepreneur, you have a successful record creating successful startups or companies, and you can gather that evidence. And that's just one example, but you get me. You are really well qualified in your field. Then why don't you look into EB1A? That's another green card category in which you can self-petition. And by the way, I have a video comparing EB2 NIW and EB1A. And let me know, by the way, if you want to listen more about this EB1A green card category, and I can make a couple of videos about it as well. And there are other visas. They are not green card categories, but they are visas like O1, also for extraordinary individuals, and green cards EB1B and EB1C. But these three options are, you require a sponsor to really back that petition, versus EB1A, you can self-petition like EB2 NIW. Another example is if you don't fall into that extraordinary ability person bucket, just start looking into other types of visas. And one option may be student visas. You can transition to a student visa by enrolling into a student program that qualifies for that, and that will extend your legal status in the US while you sort this out, while you either wait for your priority to become current or something else that will depend on your particular situation. So if you have filed your I-140 and were lucky enough to have successfully filed adjustment of status, and that doesn't apply to a lot of people, unfortunately, but if it's your case, then request EAD and travel authorization, like I said in one of the earlier slides. You have that advantage. You can get that EAD card and start working on your future green card resident status. If you have not filed I-140, does it make sense to file premium processing if I will have to wait months for my date to become current anyway? In my opinion, for most cases, no. Premium processing costs $2,500, okay? And it speeds up the decision time on the I-140, but it doesn't do anything about the adjustment of status portion of the process. So unless you are a super anxious person and you have that money readily available and you're willing to spend it just to hear the decision fast, then by all means go for it. But if that's not your case, I would not pay that money, and this is my personal preference, because yes, you will get a decision faster on the I-140, but you still need to wait for your priority date to become current, okay? And your priority date has nothing to do with the decision. It has to do with when you file your I-140. The answer could be yes if you are on visas like an H visa, because if you are laid off, for example, and you are on an H visa, then you are in a problematic situation because you only have so many days to find another job and make sure you are not out of status, and that applies to H1. That applies to E3, L1, O1 visa holders. They can apply for an EAD card if they have an I-140 approved. So in those cases, maybe I will say yes, go for the premium processing, get your I-140 approved, and then apply for an EAD under this compelling circumstances category C35 option, because then you can get that EAD card. You can have peace of mind that whatever happens with your job, you get caught on one of these layoff waves. By the way, I have a video on that topic. Then you can claim financial loss and job loss, as the USCIS website says, may be sufficient to establish severe financial loss, and that will lead to them hopefully granting this EAD card for you to use. Okay, so that's one of the situations where I would say premium processing can make sense. Okay, and I don't have a slide for it, but a general advice I could give also is that if you are thinking about EB2 NIW, don't get really scared about this retrogression. What I mean is, don't let this paralyze you. And if you were serious about applying, my advice is apply as soon as possible, because the sooner you apply, you will get a priority date that is earlier, and you will get your place in line. So no matter what happens with these visa bulletins that, again, we cannot control, is one of these factors that we don't have any control over, at least you put your foot there, you are in line, and whatever comes will come, but you're already waiting in line. Okay, so also don't let this rush get to you. At the same time, I don't want to say just apply with whatever you have. Make sure you have a good petition, but don't just let it slide, because the sooner you apply, the sooner you will be in line, and that's very good. All right, so that's it for this video. If you have more questions, leave them in the comment section below, and follow me on Instagram. I have made this new Instagram account, Oscar's Green Card. I will be posting a lot of news there, some key information about these green card categories, EB2 NIW and EB1. I will have some fun with some memes sometimes, and I hope you enjoy and we have a better communication over there. And as usual, I invite you to also check out my website, eb2niw.info. I have a lot of good information about this EB2 NIW green card category. You can download my I-140 successful petition, adjustment of status package. You can enroll in my EB2 NIW course that is, I think, one of a kind. It's a product that doesn't exist out there. I put together a comprehensive course that will guide you step by step on how to understand this green card category, including visa bulletins, by the way, how to craft a successful green card petition, including recommendation letters, including professional plans, everything, in summary, everything you need to know about this green card category. And you will have the option to send me comments over there as well. I'll be happy to respond to those. And as usual, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're not too stressed about this Visa Bulletin negative situation. I mean, we also have to be truthful about what it is. Retrogression is never fun, but I do hope you take this opportunity to look at your profile, make it stronger, craft a solid petition and file it as soon as you can, so you put yourself in line. And I wish you good luck. Thank you for your support. Don't stop subscribing and sharing this channel with others, and I will see you in the next video.